Senator John Fetterman and Representative Angie Craig both have incidences that put them into the news on a day where I am a little bit concerned about the timing of both, but we'll talk about both incidences and what they mean to the general discourse. In other news, the IRS has proposed new reporting for people who get tips in the service industry, because nothing says we're going after the rich like going after tipped employees. So we'll talk just a bit about that and what's happening there. DeSantis vows to have Disney pay its fair share of taxes, leaving the left to go back and defend a $1 billion, possibly up to $1 trillion company over not paying their taxes. So we'll go over some of that and what's happening there. And the Government Accountability Board finds 3 Biden admin officials in their acting roles are acting illegally. It is going to be all this and more. I got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. And we've got a lot to go over here today. It was a pretty busy news day today, and then just over the even up over the weekend before I got into starting on Monday plus Tuesday State of the Union, I had already packed up things I like and things that I hate. So we have got a ton to go over. We've got a massive amount of things to go over here today over on Contemporary. I don't know if we're going to finish them all, but I'm going to try to keep with them. The upside of this is we don't have one big overarching story, so we can gloss over a few of the things, fly through a few of the things. I did take a few things off the stack that had kind of expired, or us not finishing up every single day, but we are going to go over as much as we can get through here over on Contemporary before we get started. Make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we bring you a better news and culture experience that is from the common man for the common man. That's right. It is better for you to listen to and hear about topics that are actually important to you, given by people who have had to make some of the same decisions that you have. So go check out some of my friends, go check out some of these great people into the movement who are out there to give you a better news experience, and we're going to get right into it. I'm not going to go on to my extended spiel with that right now, and let's get started. Starting with the Dow. The Dow is at 33,699 points. 33,699.88 points. That is down 249.13 points, or 0.75%. But if we look back at where the range was off of this one, we had a high of 34,252.57, and it dropped down to 33,607.13. So almost 1,000 points gone from the high to the low. And the Dow did start out strong today, rising up off the futures into a very, very, very good lead, spiking all the way into 34,000 territory before giving up all of its gains and losing almost as much as it gained throughout the day. So that is where we are at on the Dow. I would start looking into some of your retirements if I was you. This is not official financial advice, of course. Go check with your financial advisor to see what is the best for you. He knows your financial situation better than I ever could, as somebody who yells into a microphone basically for a living. So talk with him, but it might be time to go start having some of that conversation as well. Looking in at the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin also tumbled throughout the day today, down to $21,825 US even. That is that Bitcoin gave up over 1,100 US dollars today, 1,137 US dollars and 70 US cents, almost 5% drop in the Bitcoin today. 4.95% down, which is telling me that there are some people that are starting to get worried as the heating season goes on through, looking in at the gas prices around Madison. Now, I will say the Madison is not moved, according to the Google map. Madison is still sitting where it was, but where I live, in the greater La Crosse area, we had a 30-point reverse in gas prices, and we're now sitting at some of the lower prices in the Madison area. 306 on the Isthmus, 309 entering the Isthmus, 310 leaving town on the north side, 310 leaving on 151, 310 leaving on the east side, 306 leaving on the west side. So still a lot of the numbers haven't changed as we go. So Madison's sitting steady. We got some reprieve finally where I live. And we will continue to watch the gas prices in one particular market so we can see what an average is for that market. Your gas prices may be different. Go check out either Gas Buddy or just look in gas prices in your local area to get your more accurate pricing. Let's see what IBD has to say on the day. Oh, they have an advertisement. That's what they have to say on the day. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Futures market rally gets its shakeout. Tesla stock doubles from bear low, from Ed Carson. Dow Futures were little changed after hours, along with the S&P and the Nasdaq. Cloudflare headlined overnight earnings reports. The market rally started Thursday strong, but reversed solidly lower, undercutting the lows of the previous few days. It's a reason to be cautious on the very short term, but the pullback could be setting the stage for another solid advance. Tesla continued to climb Thursday, even though the EV giant paired intraday gains. Tesla has more than doubled from its January 6th bear market low. The broader auto sector, from EV makers to traditional car giants and auto parts makers, is doing well. Alphabet continued to sell off following Wednesday's AI event. Microsoft is seen as much further along than Google and Baidu in actually exploiting AI benefits. Cloudflare, Alteryx, Expedia, Dexcom, PayPal, and Lyft reported after the close. Cloudflare surged 10% overnight as Q4 EPS and revenue just topped views, with the software maker also giving solid guidance. Cloudflare is set to gap above a cup with handle bottoming base with a 65-61 buy point. Meanwhile, Alteryx leapt on strong earnings, with the database software maker building the right side of a deep cup base. The Cloudflare and Alteryx earnings report are a positive for other highly valued software plays such as Snowflake. Snowflake stock, which joined the IBD leaderboard on Thursday, rose modestly in late trading. Expedia fell modestly, but after hours losses, even as EPS fell well short and revenue disappointed. Diabetics products maker Dexcom beat EPS views. Dexcom rose solidly, but faces test at the 50-day line within a consolidation. Lyft plunged on a wider than expected loss and weak Q1 revenue guidance. And I don't know how many people are actually going on rideshare right now. PayPal were flat despite strong PayPal earnings and guidance. CEO Dan Schulman will leave at the end of 2023. Shares are off late 2022 bear market lows, but have been hitting resistance. On the futures, Dow futures were flat versus fair value. The S&P advanced 0.1 and the Nasdaq climbed 0.1. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that is what we see for the finance, and as we have been able to do for the last, I think we're on 7 days straight at this point. I'll have to go back and check my video and fact check myself, but I think we're on 7 days straight where our second finance article is layoffs in a major company. Disney joining the fray. Disney to cut 7,000 jobs and slash $5.5 billion in costs as it unveils vast restructuring. From Lillian Rizzo and Sarah Whitten. I think that's the highest one too at this point. Let me think about that for a sec. Yeah, because usually we're in the 1,300, 2,000 range. 7,000 jobs cut out of Disney. From Lillian Rizzo and Sarah Whitten. Disney said Wednesday it's planning to reorganize into 3 segments while also cutting thousands of jobs and slashing costs. The media and entertainment giant said it will now be made up of 3 divisions. Disney Entertainment, which includes most of its streaming and media operations, an ESPN division that includes the TV network and the ESPN Plus streaming service, a Parks, Experiences, and Products unit. The move marks the most significant action Bob Iger has taken since returning to the company as CEO in November. Disney announced the changes minutes after it posted its most recent quarterly earnings. The announcements also come as Disney engages in a proxy fight with activist investor Nelson Peltz and his firm Trian Management. "We are pleased that Disney is listening," a Trian spokesperson said. On Wednesday, during its quarterly earnings call with investors, Disney also announced it would be cutting $5.5 billion in costs, which will be made up of $3 billion from content, excluding sports, and the remaining $2.5 billion from non-content cuts. Disney executives said about $1 billion in cost cutting was already underway since last quarter. Disney also said it would be eliminating 7,000 jobs from its workforce. That would be about 3% of the roughly 2,200 people, or 220,000 people employed as of October 1st, according to an SEC filing, with roughly 166,000 in the US and about 54,000 internationally. Disney rose about 6% pre-market on Thursday. Iger is scheduled to be interviewed on CNBC in the 9 a.m. Eastern Time hour. So, and that's going to be devastating to the Florida economy. And one of the things that I think that we should point out, and number one, I don't know if this is all California. I don't know how much of this is in California. I don't know how much of this is in Florida. But 7,000 jobs is not insignificant, even on the main scale. It does not say, because this is worldwide, obviously. It doesn't say specifically where these jobs are going to be coming from, but I mean, we're going into a recession. There's no two ways around it. And it's going to come at some point that some of these service sector jobs, which we're going to be talking about in just a moment, are going to be flooded. Do keep that in mind. And if you are in some sort of industrial job, you might actually have to be competing for your job somewhere in the near future. If you're in a service job, you might have to do so. Think about where the backup jobs are and what it is that, especially if you're in one of those jobs as a career. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody that is, but there are people out there who might give you a run for your money and even offer to work for less than what you are working for. So there are some things to be concerned about right now. I hope it all turns out well for all of the ed heads. I'm always praying for you. I'm always looking out for you, but that is where we are at for there. Let's get into the main news of the day. We're going to start with a little bit of concern coming from this from 8 NBC WGAL. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman hospitalized. Tests rule out new stroke, which that is good. I dislike John Fetterman, but I will not wish any harm on him, especially from something so devastating as that. I want him to fail as a senator and be held accountable by his constituents. I don't want him to die from a stroke. I do want him to be taken out of office, but not that way. Not that way.
We're waiting for an up.
Shut up. I have got no author given on this one. U.S. Senator Fetterman's office released a new statement Thursday on his health after he was admitted to a hospital. That's an update. You can read the statement below. About an hour ago, John Fetterman received the results of his MRI, according to John's doctors at the George Washington University Hospital. The results of the MRI, along with the results of all the other tests the doctors ran, rule out a new stroke. He's being monitored with an EEG for signs of seizure. So far, there are no signs of seizure, but he's still being monitored. We will continue to provide information as it comes in. We will have more updates as we get them. Fetterman was hospitalized late Wednesday after feeling lightheaded. At the time, Fetterman's office released this statement. Towards the end of the Senate Democratic retreat today, John Fetterman began feeling lightheaded. He left and called his staff, who picked him up and drove him to George Washington University Hospital. Initial tests did not show evidence of a new stroke, but doctors are running more tests, and John is remaining overnight for observation. He is in good spirits and talking with his staff and family. We will provide more information when we have it. Now, nobody actually knows what he's saying when he's talking to friends and family because he can't string words together, but he is, regardless, talking to friends and family. Fetterman suffered a stroke in May of 2022 on the campaign trail, and we know that. At the time, Fetterman released a statement saying that he wasn't feeling well, but he was so focused on the campaign, he ignored the signs and just kept going. So, we don't have any indication of what's happening here. It does not look like it's a stroke. But I mean, there are dozens of other things that this could be. And again, I do hope that he comes out healthy. I don't wish any harm on him. I do hope that he's held accountable by Pennsylvania voters. I have little faith that that's going to happen, but that's how I want to see Fetterman come out of the Senate. Not by a stroke, not by harm, but by actually sucking at his job. So, I will not tell you how to pray. My prayers are with John Fetterman and his family. I hope that he recovers and leads a long and healthy life. And then we have another one here. Now, authorities are ruling this out as being politically motivated, so we have that, but Angie Craig is attacked in her DC apartment building. From Alana Satlin and Kyle Stewart. Angie Craig was attacked Thursday morning in the elevator of her DC apartment building, her office said in a statement. Representative Craig defended herself from the attacker and suffered bruising, but is otherwise physically okay, the Chief of Staff Nick Coe said. Coe said the assailant then fled. There was no evidence the attack was politically motivated. A Metro Police Department report detailing the attack obtained by NBC News said that Craig first spotted the suspect in her building's lobby, acting erratic as if he was under the influence of an unknown substance. He then entered the elevator with her, began doing push-ups before punching her in the chin and grabbing her neck, police said. According to the police report, she told police she threw her cup of hot coffee at him, after which he escaped. In a statement later on Thursday, Capitol Police said it was also investigating the attack, but that there was no indication that the Congresswoman was targeted because of her position. Now that's important, by the way, because if there was any indication, even a breath, that this was politically motivated, this would be headline. They wouldn't be coming out and saying there's no indication. They would be looking for anything, any reason whatsoever to blame Republicans and January 6th and the Paul Pelosi attacker and a number of other things. And honestly, I mean, it's DC, so I'm sure that somebody went out there, and this is a not well-known representative either. Like, around here, we know who she is because I think she's a rep close to here. Where is Angie Craig a rep at? I think she's close to this area, but on the other side of the river. Yes, we know that she was assaulted. She was born in Arkansas. Does it say where she's a district for? She's got 4 kids. Second, Minnesota 2. Where's Minnesota 2? Okay, that's a little bit further away than I thought it was, but that's still not that far from here. So that's the south side of Minneapolis up to Eagan, and then out into some of the rural area going towards Mankato, St. Peter, Faribault, but not quite coming down to where we're at here. I'll show you that. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. Why did I grab that one? I want this one. Yeah, so that's where she's at. That's where she represents right there. Organize the tabs on the on air. But yeah, with Angie Craig, especially with the LGBTQIRAGIXTBYOUTMCIRXTOXI, sometimes Y, background to this, if there was any indication that there was a political motivation for this, This would be front page headlines. We would be hearing about it left and right. We'd be talking about January 6th all over again. We'd be talking about MAGA. We'd be talking about this. We'd be talking about that. We'd be talking about everything. So I can honestly say, rest assured, that this is not a politically motivated attack. And it sucks, and I hope that, she doesn't appear to have had to be hospitalized, but, I hope that she recovers. She defended herself. Some bruising is all that she got out of that, and I wish the best for her. And in probably one of the most shocking headlines that I've heard in a long time, House unanimously approves resolution condemning China for spy balloon. From Michael Schnell. The House unanimously approved a resolution on Thursday condemning the Chinese Communist Party's use of a spy balloon over the continental U.S., labeling the situation a brazen violation of U.S. sovereignty. The resolution, which cleared the chamber in a bipartisan 419-0 vote, came to the House floor 5 days after the U.S. shot down the Chinese spy balloon off of the South Carolina coast, intensifying tensions between Washington and Beijing. They are looking for a war right now. They are definitely looking for a war. An event like this, Mr. Speaker, must not happen again, and it cannot go unanswered. Representative Michael McCall of Texas, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and sponsor of the measure, said on the House floor during debate on Thursday. Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where the body's burning. Man, in this Congress and in this Biden admin, I sing that song a lot, don't I? They only understand one thing, and that is force. Oh my God. Oh, the war pigs are back in charge, and that's projecting power. And we need to project power and force and strength again. Who could have seen this coming? We need to project power and force and strength against the Chinese Communist Party, he added. They must understand that we do desire peace, but infringing upon our sovereignty leads us down a dangerous path. Our adversaries must believe that any future incursion into American airspace by a spy balloon or any other vehicle will be met with decisive force, and that is why the House should pass this resolution. They're going to do it again. Just you wait and see. They are going to do it again. The Pentagon last week announced that it was tracking a high-altitude Chinese surveillance balloon floating over the U.S. We talked about that. Anthony Blinken postponed his trip to Beijing. Despite the criticism, McCall said this week that he wanted the resolution to be a bipartisan effort rather than a partisan measure that knocked the Biden admin. It's too important of an issue, McCall told reporters on Monday. We want to stand strong together against China instead of having our internal fights. What I'm about to say is not official financial advice, but as soon as I'm off stream, I will be looking into an after-hours trade to buy more Raytheon. And any other defense contractor that's out there that's in a reasonable price right now. This is not official financial advice. The resolution calls on the Biden admin to continue keeping Congress apprised of developments through the comprehensive briefings on the incident that include a timeline of when the balloon was first detected to when it was shot down, an assessment of the surveillance data the People's Republic of China was potentially able to collect or send, a detailed account of measures taken to mitigate the intelligence collection threat from the balloon, a description of options to mitigate the situation, and an account of diplomatic communications between the Washington and Beijing on the matter. The resolution also requests information on previous times the People's Republic of China used surveillance balloons across the world. So, I guess I could say honestly that I didn't think it was going to be this, but I mean, the reason that I included this and put this on the top is because, well, let's be frank. Whenever you have a unanimous bipartisan bill, it's going to be bad for the American people. All right, let's talk about the title card of this program from KTLA5 out of Los Angeles. IRS proposes new reporting program for tips in the service industry. Yeah, that sounds like $400,000 or more, doesn't it? From Mark Sternfield. The IRS wants to do a better job of monitoring and presumably taxing tips in the service industry. The Treasury Department and IRS on Monday introduced the Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement. Oh, did they? Which the agency says would be a voluntary program involving restaurants, bars, food delivery, and other businesses where workers earn money from tips. Oh, really? Really? Do many tipped employees make over $400,000 a year? And I'm not talking about OnlyFans whores either, by the way. The proposed SITCA program is designed to take advantage of advancements in point-of-sale time and attendance systems and electronic payment settlement methods to improve tip reporting compliance, according to the IRS. Yeah, that sure sounds like $400,000 a year, folks. Aspects of the SITCA include monitoring how much revenue is generated through tips and annual reporting by employers. Businesses would also receive protection from liability under the rules that define... Oh! So you're telling me the management, who is typically in a position where they're making a higher salary, and the business owner, who's probably donated to a campaign or two, they'll be exempt from this, and it'll all be on the little people. Boy, this sure sounds like over $400,000 a year, doesn't it? Many service industry workers rely on tips as a large source of income since they typically earn less than minimum wage as an hourly rate. No, they do not. They earn the minimum wage. In any state that I've worked in that's had a minimum wage separate from the federal government, and I believe the federal government does have a minimum wage set for this too, has a specific minimum wage for opportunity employees. They do have a specific minimum wage. I think the federal level it's $2.13 an hour. I think it's a little bit higher in some states, but I think on federal level it's $2.13 an hour. And I don't know a lot of people that make that either, by the way. The public comment period is open until May 7th, 2023. Boy, does that sure sound a lot like they're going after people who make $400,000 a year, folks? From Fox Business, and rightfully so, Biden's IRS slammed over a plan to dip into the tip jars, already struggling to survive. From Kristen Altus. Let's send this to my mom. See what she has to say about it. As waiters and waitresses who live on tips could soon get served with a new tax scrutiny, service industry workers, alongside lawmakers, are sounding off on the Internal Revenue Service's latest proposal under President Biden. Look, I'm not in the service industry, but I have been. And I'm telling you, this is a bad idea. But, I mean, let's be frank here. I told you from the beginning, and many other people did, when they announced 87,000 new IRS agents, they weren't going after the rich tax cheats. They were going after people who maybe didn't know exactly how much they had to make, or had to submit, or anything else for that matter. They were going after the little guy, and everybody told you this from the instant that they announced this. Everybody out there told you that this was going after the little guy. This new voluntary system is probably more to attract smaller, family-owned establishments. Olivia Kerwin, waitress and full-time student at the West Palm Beach area, told Fox News Digital on Thursday, which would suck if they used this to impose more taxes on these businesses that are already struggling to survive. Yeah, it would. Do you think they're going after your local Red Robin? If you do, I've got some oceanfront property in Wisconsin that I will sell you today. Thank you for the view, Gaines. If you stick around to the end of the program, we'll be rating the Daily Ignoramus, by the way, over on the Twitch side, because I think he's going to be streaming when we get done. Because I think he's going to be starting up in about 5 minutes. The IRS has opened itself up to public feedback regarding a proposed tip reporting system between the tax agency and employers in a service called the Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement. The program would be voluntary. No, it wouldn't. And is designed to take advantage of advancements in point-of-sale and time and attendance systems. Yeah, we read that in the last article. While reportedly replacing other tip reporting systems, according to the IRS, SITCA would monitor employer compliance based on annual tip revenue and charge tip data from an employer's point-of-sale system. Participating employers would have to submit an annual report after the close of the calendar year, which reduces the need for compliance reviews by the IRS. Yeah, and do you think for a second that Little Miss I Got Cash for Tips, and I'll just put what's in there, do you think that she's not going to get audited for this? Many service industry workers like Kerwin rely strictly on tips to make a sustainable living, as many servers' hourly pay falls below the minimum wage. No, that's against the law. I was looking at my taxes from this past month. I probably paid $1,100 in taxes and my hourly wage was $10.90. Kerwin had previously explained to Fox News Digital, so I paid an extra $10 on top of what my hourly was. I didn't see any of my hourly pay. Everything I saw was from my tips. Kerwin further argued how abiding by a new IRS regulation would fuel confusion and frustration for businesses who have already seen their tips get hit by inflation. I feel like due to inflation costs, people start to tip less and people will get confused. They're like, oh, well, you shouldn't be mad that we're not tipping. You should be mad that your company for not paying you a livable wage, Kerwin noted. But the other side of that sword is that most servers make more being tipped than they would if they were at to make $20 or $25 hourly. You know, myself personally, to the extent of the work that I do, I wouldn't go above and beyond if I knew I was only going to be making the same $20 an hour. That's true. Most nights, Kerwin claims she won't take home the entirety of her tips either, as some establishments split tips between servers, hostesses, bartenders, and food runners. Probably about 5% of our total gross sales we have to tip out, she said. We don't tip out based on the amount of money we're tipped, we tip out based on our total amount of sales. So if someone dined in and they spend $100 but they only tip me $5, I'm not getting any of that. I'm probably even at that point paying out of my own pocket for them to have eaten there, Kerwin continued. Because I still have to tip out the bartender on that $100, I still have to tip out the food runners and the hostesses on that money. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill have also publicly opposed SITCA, such as Claudia Tenney of New York, who used to be a waitress herself. All right, story time. I come from a working class family. My dad worked in a factory for his entire career. And my mom, in order to be close to us, to be able to come back and take care of us, did work. She wasn't a stay-at-home mom, but she worked waiting tables. When I say that I did not come from a rich background, I mean that I did not come from a rich background. Now, union work, factory work, my dad actually made a decent living. Not a big living, but a decent living. But even with the reduced pay for tipped employees that my mom was subject to growing up, she would always point out the fact that, because we were learning about tips and tipping, and she would always work holiday weekends like Labor Day, Memorial Day, things like that. Because, and I quote, I made more money than your dad on my holiday weekends. If you accounted my mom's hourly rate, if you counted up all of her tips and accounted for the hourly rate, yeah, during holiday weekends, my mom would make more hourly than my dad did. Some of these people make very good money off of this. But we're not talking, again, $400,000 a year kind of money. We're talking 25, maybe $30 an hour kind of money. So, that is what they have for that. But yeah, this sure sounds like they're going after the rich tax cheats, doesn't it? Another one that's going to affect your pocketbook most likely, from CNBC, and they're putting this under the section Sustainable Future because they're probably all in for this. Shell's board of directors sued over climate strategy in first-of-its-kind lawsuit. From Sam Meredith. Shell's directors are being personally sued for allegedly failing to adequately manage the risks associated with the climate emergency in a first-of-its-kind lawsuit that could have widespread implications for how other companies plan to cut emissions. Long story short, TLDR, before I go too far into this, your gas prices are going up. Environmental law firm Client Earth, in its capacity as a shareholder, filed a lawsuit against the British oil majors board at the High Court of England and Wales on Thursday. It alleges 11 members of Shell's board are mismanaging climate risk, breaching company law by failing to implement an energy transition strategy that aligns with the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement. A claim which has the backing of institutional investors with over 12 million shares in the company, is said to be the first case in the world seeking to hold a board of directors liable for failure to properly prepare for the energy transition. Shell may be making record profits now due to the turmoil of the global energy market, but the writing is on the wall for fossil fuels long term, Paul Benson, senior lawyer at Client Earth, said in a statement. The shift to a low-carbon economy is not just inevitable, it's already happening. Yet the board is persisting with a transition and strategy that is fundamentally flawed, leaving the company seriously exposed to the risks that climate change poses to Shell's future success. Despite the board's legal duty to manage those risks, Benson said. The group investors is supporting the claim that the group of investors that are supporting the claim include UK pension funds Nest and London CIV, Swedish National Pension Fund AP3, French asset manager Sanso IS, and Danske Bank Asset Management, among others. Together, the institutional investors will hold more than $500 billion in total assets under management. Yeah, they're in this for a profit too, by the way. Now, they're doing this as a climate change thing.